Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. So today we're at the pretty village of Iwerne Minster in Dorset. It's located about 6 miles south of Shaftesbury and 6 miles north of Blandford Forum, right on the edge of the Blackmore Vale. And we're going to be walking a roughly 4.5 mile circular route. We'll start with a wander through Iwerne Minster, and there's lots to see there, and then we'll head west to Park Farm, past the site of a Roman villa, then south to the village of Iwerne Courtney, or Shroton as the locals call it, then head east along a section of the Wessex Ridgeway, up Preston Hill, and then north back to our starting point. Now I'm filming at the beginning of February. The sun is out and it's quite glorious, but it's bitterly cold. It's about 2 degrees, and it's probably only going to get to about 4 or 5 degrees in the next few hours. So that's why we're well wrapped up, and Logan's got his thick winter coat on, but it should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Okay, well, I've parked my car in the village. We'll start off with a little wander through Iwerne Minster itself. Well, we'll start off with a look at the Church of St Mary. Originally there was a Saxon building here, but the nave, north aisle and south aisle arcade of the present church dates from the mid-12th century. The north transept was added in the 13th century, and then the tower, south aisle, south porch and chapel were built in the 14th century. There was a big restoration in 1880 when the north vestry was added. I think it's got 6 bells. Well, we'll have a little peep inside. And there's the font on the sort of at the northern side of the nave. Beautiful stained glass window above. And then just looking back to the tower, and look at the the organ right up there, almost touching the roof, with the wooden gallery. Beautiful. And there's a gorgeous window there on the side, looking quite spectacular in the sunshine this morning. And then just coming through into the chancel. I love these pews on the side here. And then, a quite spectacular window above the altar. That really is quite stunning, isn't it? And then I know folk like to see kneelers, and there's a few down there, quite a different variety. Now, as far as the name Iwerne Minster goes, well, its origins come from, the River Iwerne that passes through here. Iwerne possibly refers to a Celtic goddess, or possibly yew trees on the bank of a river. The Minster bit comes from the fact that it was once owned by Shaftesbury Abbey. Now, our good friend Sir Frederick Treves had a few things to say about the village in his wonderful book Highways and Byways in Dorset that he wrote in 1906. So forgive me if I read a passage or two. I've got to have my glasses for this. Farther on the Blandford Road is Iwerne Minster, a village of some size, beautifully situated and possessed of many charming old cottages. It must at one time have been very picturesque, but it is in process of being metamorphosed into red brick. The low thatched cottages are gradually vanishing to be replaced by bold houses of gaudy brick and tiles. Iwerne serves to show one phase of the village of the future, the well-to-do, unblushing village of red brick, which for the bread of quiet beauty offers the stone of harsh unseemliness. It is impossible to complain of this with any show of reason. The low thatched cottage embedded in creepers is to a varying extent unhealthy. It is probably damp, is certainly ill ventilated and usually lacking in light and the first needs of sanitation. The red brick house can claim to be hygienic, but by some ill fortune most things that are hygienic, whether they be clothing, food or buildings, are unpleasant and unsightly. Even the hygienic person, with his fusty undergarments, his dismal diet and his axioms about drains and traps, is not attractive. It is unreasonable to require that the inhabitants of villages should occupy unwholesome dwellings merely to please the aesthetic tastes of passers-by. The exquisite old thatched cottage with its tiny windows of diamond panes must go, for the man of drains has spoken, and with it will vanish the most characteristic feature of rural England. He had a wonderful way with words, didn't he? Well, just down from the church is this beautiful house. I think it's called Oak House. And I was reading it once, it was the village club, but now is private. Now, it looks very old, doesn't it? But I think I read somewhere that it might have been built in the 1920s, but I might be wrong about that. I mean, certainly this side of the house here, the door looks incredibly old. Well, over there, looking quite glorious in the sunshine, is the Baptist chapel. The building was originally erected in 1810, but it became the Baptist chapel in 1832 and was enlarged in 1860. I think these days it's used as a village hall, not sure. Oh, what a lovely sight. Snowdrops. It may well be a bitterly cold day, but oh, there's a sign that spring is on its way. Well, another one of the village pumps, and this one's got its own little archway. Looks like the village has won a few awards over the years as well. Oh goodness me, a telephone box that's actually still got a telephone in it. That's unusual these days. I think that's a K6 box that dates from the 1930s, although I'm no expert. And I think that building over there a few years ago used to be the old butcher's shop. Now it looks as though it's residential. And just continuing to head sort of westwards, there's the old Wesleyan chapel, got a date of 1879 on it. I think it was sold in the 1980s, now as a residential property. And next thing to look at, the Iwerne Minster village stores. Looks quite sweet, doesn't it? And this is the Talbot Inn. Probably dates from the 19th century and is an old coaching inn. I expect it'll be our final destination. Another superb old village pump, which is protected by a little sort of wooden structure. And then just next to it here, now I think this little building here was called the War Office or something like that. It was built in around about 1920, and they used to display daily newspapers for villagers here. Although I have seen a video that shows previously the newspapers were actually displayed on the pump. What a delightful place Iwerne Minster is. Well, we're now going to leave the village, heading westwards. It looks like the public footpath goes through a school. Wow, look at that. Now this is a Clayesmore School, but originally there was a manor house here called Iwerne Minster House, built in 1796 on the site of a previous house by the Bower family who had owned the village since 1645. Now Thomas Bower sold the house and estate in 1876 to George Glynn, the second Baron Wolverton, and he demolished the house and built the present house here that you can see in 1878. And it was sold by the fourth Baron Wolverton in 1908 to James Hainsworth Ismay, son of Thomas Ismay, who had owned the White Star Line since 1869. That's the company that owned and operated the ill-fated ship the Titanic that of course sank in 1912. James had been involved with the White Star up until 1902, when I think he sold all his shares. But James died in 1930, and in 1933 the building was bought by Clayesmore School. The school itself was actually founded in 1896 in Enfield and had been previously located at Pangbourne and Winchester. Well, what a beautiful setting for a school. Of course, another claim to fame that the house has, it appeared in an episode of Only Fools and Horses back in 1982. The one where Dell and Rodney tried to clean a chandelier. I think you know the one. I'll continue to make my way along this footpath that goes through the school grounds. Obviously I had to be a bit sensitive as to what I filmed there. And it continues, I say, around some playing fields and right by this quite gorgeous lake, which you can just see behind me. And it really does look quite idyllic. Certainly the ducks are enjoying it out there. And of course with the sunshine you're getting some beautiful reflections on the water. Oh, what a beautiful sight. These two taking in some winter sunshine and enjoying every minute of it by the looks of things. Okay, a little update on the route. So we've left the school grounds and we're going to follow a track westwards, looking out for some sewage works. Well, we've passed the sewage works, or water treatment centre. Sounds a bit nicer, doesn't it? And so we're continuing to follow this footpath westwards. And there's Hambledon Hill in the far distance with the Iron Age hill fort on top. And of course we've done a super walk up there in the past. Oh, I tell you, it's lovely to be out in the countryside again. This is our first filmed walk of 2025, so I've almost been stuck indoors for 2 months. It really is great to be out. Now, regular viewers might notice something slightly different. The satchel has gone, and I've now got a sort of a camera backpack, a little bit easier to carry on both shoulders rather than one. That's the idea. We'll see how it goes. Oh, beginning to get a little bit of wind now. A little update on the route. We've just passed through a big dairy farm called Park Farm, and this is as far west as we're going on the route. We're now going to start heading southwards. Just over to my right in a field there was once a Roman villa. It shows up on all the old maps. I think it was excavated in the late 19th century. Well, just taking in some views over to the east as we go down this track. I think we'll be heading up onto that ridge on the homeward leg. And it really is your typical Dorset rolling landscape, that's for sure. Well, a winter walk in the countryside wouldn't be right without getting your feet muddy. Luckily I'm getting some new boots soon. Well, I'm now coming into the little village of Iwerne Courtney or Shroton, the village with two names. The Courtney bit comes from the fact that the estate was once owned by the Courtney family, the Earls of Devon in the 13th century. The Shroton bit, well, sort of Old English sker, reefer and ton, basically sheriff's estate or town. At the time of the Domesday Book, the Lord and Tenant-in-Chief was Baldwin of Exeter, Sheriff of Devon. Well, this here, I think this is the Methodist chapel, which dates to 1896. That's looks like it's now a residential house. Just interesting looking up at the side of the wall of the house there, GP 1734. I wonder if that was built by a chap called George Pitt, who was the owner of the estate at the time, possibly. Well, this quite charming little stream with the snowdrops on the side. I think this has come off part of the River Iwerne, which we'll see later. And I think this may have been the mill leat that goes down to the mill at the bottom of the high street. Or, well, the mill's no longer there. I think the stream was diverted east in the 1960s and the mill pond and the old stream at the bottom filled in. Let's say we'll see the Iwerne later on. That flows south into the River Stour. And this is the Cricketers Pub. Now, there's been a pub on the site since at least 1715, but the present building dates to 1920 when it replaced an earlier one, the White Hart, that had been burnt down. And the new pub retained the White Hart name right up until the 1990s, when it changed its name to celebrate its long association with Shroton Cricket Club. I think there used to be two other pubs in the village, as well as a brewery, all long gone. Well, seeing as we were passing by and it was open, we thought we might just pop into the Cricketers purely for research purposes only. What a beautiful beer garden they've got as well. Just testing out their Buchan ale. Oh, lovely. Now, I'm afraid they haven't got pipers, but they've got Tyrrells lightly salted. Yeah, that'll do. Well, somewhat fortified by that pint, we'll continue with our little wander through the village. Now, right next to the pub is the old post office, a mid-18th century building. I think the post office closed in the 1990s. And there's the village hall. Now, it was once the old school, built in 1851, but the school itself closed in 1978. And just through there, the old rectory that dates to 1812, I believe. Well, this sweet little church is the Church of St Mary. Now, the chancel dates to the 14th century and the tower was added in the 15th century. And then in the 17th century, the nave was rebuilt and the north aisle and south chapel added. The south aisle and south porch was added in 1871, and the vestry dates from the late 19th, early 20th century. There was a big restoration in 1872. I think it's got 6 bells. Well, just before we leave the village, I thought I'd show you the cricket pitch, which is on the sort of western side of Shroton. And what a glorious setting with Hambledon Hill in the background. You can just imagine here in the summer just relaxing with a nice cold pint and the sound of leather on willow. We're just heading eastwards now, leaving the village, just crossing over the River Iwerne, and it really does look crystal clear, a real chalk stream. Now, if this was a really boiling hot day, this would make an excellent dog dip, but somehow I don't think Logan's that interested today. Well, a little update on the route. So we're continuing to head eastwards, and we've crossed the A350, and we're now on part of the Wessex Ridgeway, that 136-mile long distance path that goes from Marlborough in Wiltshire all the way to Lyme Regis in Dorset. It looks like we've got an uphill section as well. Well, we're about halfway up this hill. God, am I unfit or what? And, God, I'm certainly warm now, I tell you. So we're continuing up here towards top of Preston Hill, I think it's called, and we'll come across a farm, and then we'll start heading northwards on the homeward journey back to Iwerne Minster. Oh, it's just days like today, you have to keep stopping from time to time just to take in some of these views. So this is looking over to the sort of east and southeast. It's quite breathtaking. Aha, that's the sign I was looking for. 3/4 of a mile back to Iwerne Minster, heading northwards. I'm just coming down off the sort of northern side of Preston Hill. Some of the views though on the other side, well, they really were quite stunning. Well, just coming off the ridge now, back into Iwerne Minster, which you can see down in the valley below. I can see the church spire there. I say it's so peaceful up here, a real freshness to the day. And here we are back into the outskirts of Iwerne Minster. Now the big question is the Talbot open in the afternoons? Oh, I hope so. Well folks, bad news. The Talbot doesn't open until 4 o'clock, another hour to go. Fortunately the village shop is open, so it's chocolate chip cookie for me, a doggy bick for Logan. Oh, we did get one pub in. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We thought we'd do the end scene here up on the ridge, looking down into the valley below on Iwerne Minster. It really is a quite gorgeous scene. We hope you enjoyed our walk today. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We've had a super walk today. Been a little bit chilly. The sun has been out, but it's just beginning to dip over the ridge there. So until we meet again, thanks for watching and cheerio. Right, sweetie time. Good boy.